You've been driving with your dog loose in the car and not admitting that you're quietly terrified the whole time. Welcome to The Dog Who Asked for More, the podcast for dog parents navigating the messy, complicated parts of life with a dog. Here you'll gain confidence in your decisions, deepen your connection with your dog, and finally feel seen in something you've never been able to say out loud. I'm Em, a dog mom, former vet tech, and dog trainer who learned everything I know about car safety from a dog who couldn't settle and who wants to save you the 16-hour car trip it took me to figure it out. I moved dogs across state lines for years and never once thought I was doing it wrong. Cajun, Fiona, easy dogs, dogs who curled up in the back seat and stayed there. Dogs who settled within the first 10 minutes and didn't move again until we stopped. And because they were easy, I thought that meant they were fine. I thought easy equaled safe. It didn't occur to me that there was a better way because nothing ever went wrong. And then I got Fitz. Fitz in the car is a completely different experience. Pacing, panting, lip licking, constantly adjusting. And he'll eventually lay down, usually after about 2 hours, but it doesn't last. He gets right back up, resettles, gets back up again. He vocalizes when he needs a bathroom break, but outside of that, he never fully stops moving. And what that does to you as a driver, trying to watch traffic, trying to manage merges, trying to stay calm while your dog is in constant motion behind you, is its own kind of exhausting. And underneath all of it was this quiet thing I couldn't name. Not quite fear, not quite anxiety. Just the specific awareness that if something happened, if I had to brake hard, if someone cut me off, if anything went sideways, I didn't know where he would end up. Last December, I drove 16 hours to a wedding in Savannah with Fitz in the back. It was a test run. I wanted to see how he'd do on a longer trip before committing to anything bigger. And what I found out was that he struggled on long car rides the whole way. The pacing didn't stop. The getting up and laying back down didn't stop. And I spent 16 hours doing the math in my head. The traffic math, the Fitz math, the what if something happens math, and arrived at my destination completely depleted. Toby stayed home because Toby wants to be in my lap. He moves around constantly. And adding that to what was already happening with Fitz in the back made it feel impossible. So he stayed home with his grandma and grandpa, and I drove to Savannah alone with a dog who couldn't settle and a nervous system that was running on high the whole time. Most people don't think about car safety for dogs until something happens, or until they have a dog like Fitz who makes the problem impossible to ignore. And I understand that completely because I was exactly that person. My easy dogs made me comfortable. My comfortable made me assume we were fine. The truth is, most dogs travel loose in cars, and most of the time, nothing happens. But most of the time isn't the same as safe. And when something does happen, a sudden stop, an accident, anything that creates impact, a loose dog becomes a projectile. Not just a danger to themselves, a danger to everyone in the vehicle. Ruffland gets multiple crash testimonials every week. Real-world accidents where their kennels keep dogs alive. There's a rollover story where the car was upside down, every window broken, the vehicle completely unrecognizable, and right in the center of it, kennel intact, dog looking out like what just happened. And in some of the most extreme accidents, the structural rigidity of the kennel actually kept the roof from collapsing on the human inside. That's not marketing. That's what happens when something is built specifically to keep a living thing safe. After the trip to Savannah, I started working with Ruffland. And when my kennels were ready, they invited me to come see their factory in South Dakota, about 5.5 hours from my home. And I said yes immediately. What I found there was a team that has built their entire operation around one thing: keeping dogs safe in vehicles. Not just comfortable, safe. The rotational molding process, one-piece construction, no screws, no wing nuts, no seams that split under pressure, quality control that flags color variations, and surface textures that aren't quite smooth enough. Things you would never notice. Things that don't affect how the kennel functions at all. but they notice and they don't ship them. Those become seconds, available on the website at a lower cost. Minor cosmetic imperfections that didn't pass their standards. I have a video from the factory showing exactly what we're talking about. There is nothing wrong with them. If saving money matters and you're not particular about a tiny color variation, the second section is worth checking out. While I was on location, I set up my kennels. I customized them. And I left understanding something I hadn't fully understood before, that car safety for dogs doesn't have to be complicated or expensive or stressful. It just has to be intentional. And here's where it gets a little confusing because your dog is fine. Your dog has always been fine. You've made 100 trips and nothing has happened, and the idea of adding a kennel to your car feels like one more thing to figure out, one more transition to manage with a dog who already has a lot of feelings about change. And there's something else underneath that. The kennel feels like a punishment, like you're locking your dog away, like the freedom they have in the back seat is something you'd be taking from them. But most dogs, when introduced to a kennel properly and with time, find enclosed spaces genuinely calming because a contained, familiar space that smells like them and feels predictable gives their nervous system something to settle into, especially in a moving vehicle full of noise and unpredictability. The kennel isn't taking something from them. When it's done right, it's giving them the one thing the backseat never could, somewhere consistent to land. Fitz is better in the car now. He settles faster and he sleeps with no pacing at all. It didn't happen because I put him in a kennel and drove away. It happened because we worked on it, because the kennel became familiar before it became a car thing, because I gave him time to understand that the kennel was safe before I asked him to be in it for hours on end in a car. And Toby is still a work in progress. He's being kennel trained for the car now so that he can come with us too, because that's the whole point. Not just Fitz traveling safely, but both of them traveling safely. And some days the kennel training feels slow, and I have to remind myself that this is the same patience I ask dog parents to have with every other kind of training. The timeline is the timeline. If you've been traveling with your dog loose in the car and not thinking about it, I'm not here to make you feel bad about that. I did it for years. Easy dogs made it easy not to think about. But if you have a dog like Fitz, a dog who makes the problem visible, this is worth looking at. Not because something has gone wrong, but because you'd like to make sure it doesn't. One practical note. Rufflin builds to order, and right now the lead time is running about 6 to 8 weeks. So if you're planning a trip this fall or thinking about the holidays, now is the time to look. They also offer payment plans through the website, up to 4 payments if you want to kit out your full system and spread the cost out. Here's the question I want to leave you with. What would it feel like to make the next long trip with your dog and not spend the whole drive doing the math about what could happen? You've been showing up for your dog in every way you know how. Car safety is just one more way to do that, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be intentional. Head to the Rufflin website and sign up for their newsletter. That's where you'll hear first about limited colors, new products, and seasonal sales. And if you want to see exactly what I'm traveling with, I'll put a link to my full Rufflin setup in the description too. So, be kind, spread joy, and remember, safe travel isn't about having an easy dog. It's about having the right setup for the one you've got.